want to extend a sincere appreciation to Offsight today for joining SWACCA's Innovation Committee for this webinar, Innovation Through Prefabrication, utilizing Offsight. Today's purpose of the webinar is to have a conversation about prefabrication. The idea behind it was, I'm considering starting prefabrication, or my owner, my client, the GCs are asking us, can you guys prefab any of this offsite? What does it take? And a lot of the drywall, framing, steel stud contractors are considering looking into prefabrication, or they have prefabrication options right now, and they're trying to figure out how can I better improve my prefabrication. I'm going to kick it off to Vikas to get started.
Thank you, Nick, for that introduction, and thank you everyone for attending the webinar with Offsight and Signature Wall and Ceiling Contractors Association. Let me do a screen share to get started. All right, to begin things off, this will be a webinar talking about innovations in prefab and especially technology, and how technology can help you in complementing your prefab investment and helping you drive ROI for your prefab investment. To begin things off, we're going to have a quick agenda. We'll have a quick walkthrough with this presentation, and then a handoff actually in the order to Jason and Caitlin from Durapods. Caitlin is one of the Offsight customers and can talk directly about technology being implemented in the field and how it's essentially helped streamline their operations at their prefab site. And then finally, we'll get a chance to put everything together and see this in action with a live demo from Andrew from our team. All right, so to continue, 256 billion in available profits is moving off-site in the coming years. This is from an analysis done globally by a leading consulting firm. So many executives across the country in very different construction roles, like Nick mentioned, general contractors, owners, others were surveyed, and the resulting data was collected for this analysis. So there's 256 billion moving off-site that's available for grabs. 77% of the construction executives surveyed believe this change is underway. 45% believe it'll happen in the next 5 years. And 71% of the current construction value chain is up for disruption. So as you can imagine, many people are investing in new prefab and offsite construction factories and operations to capture this opportunity. So as these investments are being made, what are they hoping to capitalize on? One is speed. You can complete projects faster because components can essentially be prefabricated and assembled within a factory setting, capitalizing on the benefits of manufacturing and assembly lines. Cost efficiency, they can be done with fewer people and can be done, as I mentioned, in an assembly line setting. So the productivity will improve dramatically. Quality control, they can be done in a controlled environment, so there's less material waste, controlled manufacturing quality processes, and less room for job site error. Finally, the climate benefits. By building in a controlled environment, you can reduce fossil fuel transportation costs and material waste, as mentioned, which is a very large contributing factor on job sites to climate waste. So how do you actually deliver on all these benefits that offsite construction can provide? The speed, the quality excellence, the cost efficiency, environmental benefits. Just simply moving a process from a factory into a warehouse ensure that you're going to achieve those benefits? No, not really. The truth of the matter is you do need to build a manufacturing process, an effective manufacturing process around that movement. And not only with this, you have to build this new process, you need to manage this process effectively. You need to make sure that you're actually driving towards these goals. And technology can be a very powerful tool in helping you manage this new process. It can help you manage, it can help you track, and it can help you improve on this new process. So as we go through this presentation, we'll talk about exactly how technology can do that. And then later you will see towards the end a live demo in terms of how this would apply in a real world setting with a specialty contractor directly from the shop floor. So with that being said, let's move further into the presentation. So what are some of the key elements that technology can help with in actually driving those results? The speed, the quality control, the cost savings, and the environmental efficiency. Well, one is being able to manage your delivery and quality and production very uniquely and very directly through the software. Two is provide visibility and collaboration with project stakeholders that can streamline prefab projects and help in making prefab projects efficient. 3 is controlling labor costs as they apply to the factory setting. So to actually ensure that you are utilizing your labor correctly in the production process and that it is comparatively better than your job site work. And 4th is finally cutting down material waste. As you bring those projects into the factory, you do want to make sure materials are on hand, you're consuming those materials properly, you're acknowledging and recording waste so that in the future you can reduce waste and achieve those benefits that come with moving the work offsite. So let's dig into each of these. Managing prefab factories, one key element here that technology can provide is with managing delivery, quality, and production. So technology can be used to live track progress as panels, pods, and other products go through the assembly line. Live updates can be provided to operators and other stakeholders. Materials like shop drawings and SOPs can be referenced in the moment in the production areas. And any quality issues can be identified and resolved all within the factory setting, within the technology, before products are shipped. By being able to track everything in real time and ensure that these products stay on track, you're better able to hit those scheduled delivery results and ensure that you are delivering faster. Additionally, project visibility and collaboration is a huge value add. So being able to provide visibility into your prefab process and where things are on the shop floor to other project stakeholders, including executives, financiers, owners, is crucial. Many times with prefab projects, we understand that there are milestones that need to be hit before billing and other criteria can kick in. So being able to provide visibility to where things stand in the production run and that certain things have been achieved, certain processes have completed, and being able to update stakeholders so that they're on track can be huge. Not only can that benefit owners and can help with the financing side of things, but it can also help with coordinating resources throughout the project. As work is done in the factory setting, install teams and others on the job site can be aware that certain products are ready for ship, are almost completed and ready to leave the warehouse or leave the prefab site. Finally, there's a labor cost element as well. So being able to live track labor per product or per project as they go through assembly on the factory floor is huge. Tying this labor back to a workstation, to a product, or to a project, one, helps you effectively manage that labor and labor costs on an active project, but also helps you improve. So you get a very accurate picture of exactly how much you're expending in labor on a specific type of product or a specific type of project, or a design. And in this manner, you can always improve going forward. You can understand where process improvements are needed, and you can even track that those process improvements are being done effectively. Finally, there's the ability to manage materials in real time, which is very effective in cutting down material waste and recording material consumption. So having the ability to basically track materials as they're consumed in the work area by your design or bill of materials specific to your product in your prefab setting is very valuable. You can live track as these materials are consumed and then have a very accurate picture of what you have in inventory. As inventory runs low, you can always order more parts, so you ensure there's no stoppage, there's no downtime. And then you can also record when you receive poor material. So as mentioned, material that's wasted, doesn't meet requirements, and you can always improve supplier quality based on that. So you may be able to avoid some of the problems that are plaguing job sites with material wastes and so forth. And these problems, as mentioned, do also also play a significant role when it comes to climate efficiency and climate friendliness. So with that being said, I'm going to hand off actually to Jason and Caitlin Carpenter from PDM Durapods. PDM Durapods is one of the Offsight customers and has undertaken many major commercial and healthcare prefabrication projects, amongst others. Jason will get a chance to provide an intro, and we'll have a chance to provide a perspective with Caitlin. So I'm going to hand off to Jason and Caitlin. Thanks, guys.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jason Dixon. I'm the solutions engineer with Offsight. I've been in modular construction for a little over a decade now, and I have the pleasure of introducing you guys to Caitlin of PDM Durapods. PDM Constructors is a leading specialty and drywall contractor leveraging prefab on well-recognized commercial healthcare projects and projects that you might have heard of: Inspira Medical Center in New Jersey and the Hard Rock International Hotel and Casino in New Bristol, Virginia. Their factory manages bath pods, panel production, and they use Offsight technology to do this with. Caitlin is a project manager at PDM Constructors and works closely with our Offsight team to scale Offsight and prefab technology at PDM. Caitlin will be answering a few questions with me today about the technology and how it works there at their factory. Good afternoon, Caitlin.
Hi, Jason. Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here as a representative of PDM and Durapod.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So I'm going to jump into a few questions that I have here for you. And the first question I have is, as a specialty contractor with a strong track record of success on prefab projects, what do you feel PDM Constructors is doing right when it comes to winning prefab projects?
Yeah, definitely. So PDM has been around for over 2 decades now. We started the Durapod side probably a few years ago. So our experience in prefab.
Okay, I'm sorry. I think we may have lost Caitlin. I'll tell you what. Let's. I'm gonna pass on over to Andrew and let him talk a little bit about the way that Offsight works, and so you guys can actually see the software in progress. And then I'll see if I can get Caitlin back on. Thank you, guys. I apologize for that.
A little bit of notable here. So I'm Andrew. I'm one of the co-founders of Offsight, and I love to kind of go through a little bit of a product demo in terms of how Offsight works. And just to give you a little bit about my background, I've been in prefab for a little over 10 years. We started off implementing technology for companies like Schneider Electric, ABB, electrical prefab, and other types of prefab. And initially, we implemented ERP systems using, off-the-shelf like NetSuite, SAP, Dynamics. And what we did was we found a lot of kind of problems with how hard it was to set up for standard prefabrications, since ERPs are very, more batch manufacturing or discrete manufacturing focused. So as you can see from this demo, we're going to go through why we built it specifically for prefab and modular construction. You can kind of see the differences and how easy it is to kind of modify workflows, like where it's kind of designed for manufacturing assembly. It's all kind of built with the idea for project-based manufacturing. So just to kind of give you an overview of kind of what you're seeing here, this is kind of the live view. This is essentially a visualization of your manufacturing workflow on the factory floor, right? So this would be an example of a panelized factory building panels. And these would be some sample stations that you essentially can kind of visualize and build out within Offsight. So in this demo account, you can see this is framing, sub-assembly, sheathing. These are a few panels that are currently in this specific station. And I'll describe a little bit of kind of what you're seeing here and some details. But from a high level, from this kind of demo view for the next 10 minutes or so, I'm going to walk through the production tracking side, the quality reporting side, also touch on a little bit on the materials tracking within a factory, the labor tracking, any type of specific analytics and KPIs that you can then pull for this to essentially improve your operations. And finally, I'll go to a little bit on the planning, schedule, and forecasting so you can make sure that your factory itself is more or less, scheduled in a way where it's in production year round, right? And that's kind of the goal, is essentially how can have consistent production within prefab to make sure it's viable and very competitive in the market. So just to kind of show you what you're seeing here, right? If you click on this, you'll see what you call the side panel. This would more or less show you some production times, right? You can also add zone target times here, but this would be how long this specific panel spends in this specific station framing. And then if it exceeds the target zone times, we can send out email or snap alerts. Underneath here, you see total production time. So as you essentially complete your task within this specific station, you move to the next station, your total time essentially keeps going and your zone time essentially resets, so you get accurate takt times per individual process, right? So based on how you set up your factory, a lot of cases, these zones represent actual stations, like physical areas where you'll do the assembly. In other cases, these would just be stationary products, and these will end up being processes. So the product actually doesn't move, right? So you can kind of do it either way. It's kind of based on the workflow and the framework that you kind of set up. And as you can see here, you have multiple different setups. So if you're doing like a bathtub factory, kind of like what Jason mentioned, you have different layout here. And then you can have a panelized factory in the same facility or next door. That could be have a different layout. Maybe doing volumetric modules, you have a completely different layout. So it's very kind of customizable and very dependent on your workflow. And that's what makes this system very powerful, is the sense that it's very easy to change the workflows, which from my experience, ERPs were very difficult. So we kind of built this to make it very flexible to kind of like a new age version of project management and tracking, where within each individual project that changes over time, you can create a new workflow that kind of works for your process, right? So hypothetically, if you were to add more products here, what you'll do is since you go to the start screen, this is where you upload your production schedule. And I'm just going to run you a quick example here. I'm going to start panel A102, right? It'll essentially start in the live screen, as you can see here, right? You can add some target times, target times here as well. We click on framing, right? And these are essentially a brief snapshot of all the tasks that essentially need to go through in all the stations, and also give you a percent complete for each individual station. So you kind of see a brief overview of the production progress, right? So if you click on the framing and then go do this checklist, and these checklists could be either quality checklists that you need to fill out if you do anything related to housing with third-party inspectors. These could be more SOPs where you can kind of track the production of assembly. So whatever checklist you use today, you can essentially upload that into Offsight, and you can move away from what a lot of clients use before Offsight would be paper, Excel, Smartsheets, some version of a generic project management software. But this essentially is very built for prefab. So it has all the features related to adding photos as well as tracking regarding timestamps. So another kind of very big thing here is each click is timestamped. So you can kind of very quickly figure out who's working on what. If any quality issues come up, you can kind of have the traceability to kind of see, you know, what happened and how to fix it if anything comes up from that perspective. So I'll complete these tasks. I'll do a signature, right? I'll click submit. So now this is completed, submitted by me. Everything is essentially timestamped, so you get full end-to-end quality traceability, right? This goes 100%, and now I can move it to the next station. So you can move in different ways. In this case, you can have a task that you can essentially timestamp, and then click submit, and then I'll move on to the next station, right? So the idea here is it will be more or less real-time visibility into exactly what's happening. And, you know, this is kind of one application that you can kind of use to kind of track it using a desktop application. But I'd love to also kind of show you the mobile version. So we also have a companion mobile app that more or less acts as very similar to the desktop application. It's just easier to kind of enter data from the factory floor using mobile devices. So I'm just gonna give you a quick example of what this looks like, right? So this would be kind of a mirror of what you see from the desktop application. You have this very similar zones here, right? A1 and 2 is here. In a lot of different cases, a lot of our clients also QR code a lot of the products, panels, pods, so you can actually use that to track what's happening in the factory without having to type in the IDs. And then once it goes on site, the QR code essentially follows it. So you can get the traceability even on the on-site installation process as well. So in this example, I can select the product by actually just scanning a barcode. So I'm going to click this barcode icon on the top right. I'm just going to scan this. This would automatically select A-102, right? So if you have hundreds or even in terms of this case, thousands of products live in different projects, by just scanning the QR code, you essentially remove all the human error related to it. And then this is for assembly, right? You click this, you click on the assembly one, and then this would be an example of a checklist, right? In this case, we have some automation kind of built in, but it'll auto-click a yes for these when we kind of get in, and then if there's a quality issue, you can click no. So this is how we do a lot of the non-conformances, is we essentially would have a subtask kind of linked to each question, which you can then modify based on the question, right? So in some cases, if you have a plumbing related question, all the subtasks would be related to plumbing, for example. So it's very modifiable, very customizable from that perspective. So in this case, I'm just going to take, this is brown quantity, I'll take a photo, right? And then I can say, use photo. I can then also annotate on this, and add any comment if I want, right? Click confirm. And then in this case, I'm going to click alert, right? So when I click alert, I'll kind of move back to the desktop application now, and you kind of see that this is now turned red, right? This is now red. This now has turned red. You can filter for all quality alerts from that perspective. So it kind of highlights that, you know, in this subassembly, there is a quality issue that should be recognized. And if you click here, this is the real-time sync. So this is essentially uploaded from the mobile side, and that's all kind of there from that perspective as well. And then in terms of what type of report that you would get some version of non-conformance reporting if you were to do an export, something like this, where you'll have photos annotated in here, you have alerts, right? So this would be an example of non-conformance report that you would do an export directly from Offsight that you can then have internal discussions about in terms of how to improve it over time, right? So that's kind of a general idea from that. And then from that perspective, assuming all these are more or less completed, what ends up happening is you can say this has been corrected, right? We essentially have an alert ID that gets linked to this specific product. In this case, we also add a status, which is open. And then you can do reporting where you want to have all like open reports for alerts, right? Once it becomes resolved, it actually then converts and becomes closed. So I'll show you how that would look. So now that's closed, right? So that status is now like updated. So you can do a report on how many quality issues are closed on a weekly or monthly basis, how many quality issues are open on a weekly, monthly basis. So you have a trailing quality kind of analytics that you can kind of review on a cadence. And that should overall improve quality in general for your factory. And then assuming all these are completed, right, and they're all done and they get shipped to the job site, you can then essentially end the product from the factory. And then this essentially migrate to our history tab, which would then show you more or less historical record of this specific project and this panel. And then you can do the same level of reporting that you created before, right? So that's another kind of benefit here is the data is essentially stored where you can then download it for yourself. You can do an export, put it on your internal servers. A lot of clients like to do that. Or in some cases, they can leave with an offsite and we store it forever, as long as you're a client. So we essentially have a level of traceability, and this is a kind of a step up from some clients that use a lot of paper and store a lot of paper. This essentially gets away from that, and it has some redundancy, so there's never a scenario where you can't pull the data. And then if I go into reports, this is a kind of a way where you can generate some of the non-conformance reporting that I kind of showed you. What you can essentially do here is save a lot of different views and permissions on the types of reports you want to create. So this could be like a quality report, right? And then you can do it on a weekly basis. And you can kind of create these different settings here where you can save the filters, and then you can just quickly click export HTML or download Excel, and then you essentially have that data directly linked here. So if we were to do that, then you essentially would just get an email to you, and you can also download that here as well. And then I'll touch on a little bit on the material side, right? So now that we kind of went through the reports, and this is kind of the core production tracking quality, one of the additional things that a lot of our clients really like is that you can also track materials within Offsight, right? So you can essentially add in all your suppliers, all the materials that the suppliers provide in this case, right? And then once that's kind of put into the system, you can then add in the inventory, right? How much inventory you're carrying, and these could be project specific, so you can buy the materials and assign it to a specific project, or you can actually hold inventory yourself if it's going to be used on multiple projects. So you can kind of do it based on your existing process there. You can have different warehousing for storage, so you kind of know where everything is. This would be, in some cases, your perpetual inventory system. And then we have like mass uploaders where you can kind of do this, and it doesn't need to be manual per se. Since we're doing prefab, we also have a section where you can create and upload bombs, right? So in this case, if you create a bomb for this specific project, right, say you're doing like a multifamily project here, you can then add in all the materials, how much quantity is essentially used, what station that is used in, and then this would essentially apply for the entire project. But you know, in some cases, some panels, some bath pods, they could be snowflakes, right? So there could be slight differences in there. So how you do that is you can actually apply it to all and then modify it a little bit, and then that becomes highlighted in orange, right? So this is something that we built specifically for this, and we haven't really seen it happen where it's very easy to modify per SKU without having changed the SKU in some cases, right? So it becomes a scenario where you can actually accurately figure out what the material consumption is in the BOM for each individual product within the project. So from there, you can also create POs, right? So now that once you kind of use the material consumption side of things, once material is being consumed live on the factory floor, you may want to create some POs and then increase inventory from that perspective if anything goes low. So we essentially allow you to can do that within Offsight, and then you can have some traceability here where you can track the stats of the PO when it arrives, any type of sign-off signatures, and once it arrives, you can more or less create a way where you can receive the PO and then it will automatically be added into inventory. So we essentially complete the cycle from that perspective where you consume the material and then you can order more and then you can go in and be stored in inventory from that perspective. In some ways, in terms of how you would consume the material, you could essentially create, scenarios where you would assign the material from the BOM. You can say apply BOM. This would essentially be 5, right? It's how much material will be consumed in this specific station, which is framing. And then when you click submit, then that essentially converts it from raw material to WIP, and then you can do WIP reporting from that perspective as well. And then the last part would be consumption. So now that you have and are now assigning materials, you can kind of see the stats of each material per panel, per product. The stats would be WIP or finished goods, right? Once it gets assigned, it will be considered finished once it gets released to a certain station. So in some cases, shipping would mean it's like more or less sellable, and now it's considered a finished good compared to WIP. And then you can do that level of reporting, and a lot of our clients really like that because it kind of, in some sense, shows some version of progress complete percentage from that sense. And then lastly, we'll go this pretty shortly here, would be on the labor tracking side, you can also tag in specific people to labor, right? That would then trickle into our labor tracking in timesheets. So how that would work is for the specific panel, I can tag in a user, and now the hours of this person is now linked to this product, to this project. So you can kind of get some accurate labor tracking done in terms of how much you essentially spent or will spend on the specific project over the life cycle. And then finally, we also have a planning and forecasting tool here, right? So what this would do is you can create a plan. You can create multiple plans based on projects that you're bidding on, the existing projects in pipeline, right? And then you can kind of add the projects to this plan to figure out how much labor you essentially would need to complete it within a certain time frame, right? So if you're producing 100 panels and you hire 8 people, you can do another scenario where you hire 12 people or 4 people, right? And then based on how many hours it will take to complete and how many hours they're working, get a pretty accurate estimate in terms of when things would get completed. So this is some demo data that I can show you here. It's a little bit longer than doing a quick demo on this thing, but this would be an example of when a product would complete in each individual station, when it will complete in general for each individual product for this specific project. And you can also download this to a CSV if you want to make more modifications. And then we also have high-level KPIs that you can kind of go through regarding, how long this project would take for each individual product, any gaps in production and capacity, any gaps in zones. So, for example, if you have these all go to framing, when would framing be free for the next project? You can kind of figure that out using these KPIs as well. So that's a very rushed and kind of push through kind of demo. But finally, I'd like to kind of wrap up with another service that we kind of offer would be the analytics side. So we do have more or less custom analytics that we can then pull from the reports tab. A lot of clients really enjoy and like, especially if the executives, they want to see some overviews. So these are kind of another kind of a high-level service that we provide here, which would be we summarize a lot of your production, quality, materials, and labor that happen across your projects. So with that, I'll hand it back to Jason to kind of go through the Q&A side.
Thank you, Andrew. We're going to give it another shot here with Caitlin from Durapods. She is a project manager at PDM Constructors. Also, subcategory is their Durapods is a brand as well inside of their company. She works closely with us at the Offsight team to scale offsite prefab technology and at PDM. And PDM, just to kind of like recap, they are a specialty drywall contractor that leverages prefab on commercial and healthcare projects. Some that you might have heard of is the Hard Rock International Hotel and Casino in New Bristol, Virginia, and Inspira Medical Center in New Jersey. They do bath pods and panel production using offsite technology. And I'm going to be asking Caitlin a few questions to kind of like talk a little bit about the way that they use technology in the factory that they have today. Thank you again, Caitlin, for joining us back with us.
Yes, I apologize. Thank you again for having me. And I'm excited to talk a little bit about how Offsight helps us over here in the prefab world at PDM Durapods.
Thank you. I'm going to jump right in and ask you a question here. As a specialty contractor with a strong track record of success on prefab projects, what do you feel PDM Constructors is doing right when it comes to winning prefab projects?
Yeah, so like you just mentioned, we've worked really hard to become one of the top prefab companies in the country. We have a strong record for quality excellence that we've demonstrated on many of our commercial projects. Like you mentioned, Hard Rock, we've done a bunch of the Great Wolf Lodges as well. And another one we're trying to do is we just finished a Bank of America one. So owners we've worked with have received thousands of panels and pods built to the highest standard. And we've been able to really leverage our controlled factory process to continuously improve on our quality thanks to Offsight.
Awesome, that's great. How has technology helped you drive quality excellence and maintain production processes that owners can rely on?
Yeah, absolutely. So like I kind of mentioned, we leverage Offsight for both our bathroom pod and panel production lines. We have two different facilities that work together. So with that panel production lines to track all the quality conformance and assembly throughout production and before shipment. Offsight lets us identify, track, and resolve all issues before we ship, which is very important. This helps us reduce job site rework when they get back in and installed on the field with our union workers, and help streamline installation. We also leverage Offsight for material trackings and control waste. This allows us to ensure we maintain materials stocked throughout large projects. Again, we can have hundreds of pods on our floor at once. And this helps us eliminate installation of defective parts ultimately on the floor and when they get to the job site.
That's awesome. How has technology helped you collaborate with the project stakeholders on like major offsite projects that you guys have?
Yeah. So we are a big Offsight fan, obviously. We love that it adds and can accurately track our product delivery. And like I believe Andrew mentioned before, the QR codes are a big hit over here. We have iPads throughout our facility where the guys can go and scan that QR code and go right to our QA/QC process. Offsight automatically provides regular QPIs and progress reports to our executive team weekly. We get emails from you and the project stakeholders. So that allows higher ups to really be involved in the process also. It allows us to track the programs of each pod or panel and how we're tracking against the projected schedule that our GCs are really expecting these pods or panels. Being able to provide the owners and GCs with a reliable progress updates is also super crucial. They're always asking us, when are they going to be done? What's your progress of this? And also I like how we can send the GC a login to Offsight. So, and get to specify what they can exactly see along the process. Establishing trust and allowing our partners to coordinate on-site installation resources and manage all other aspects of the project costs ultimately, which everyone's really looking at the end of projects. Some things especially so important with prefab in the modular world and it expanding from there. So.
Awesome. Well, Caitlin, I'm going to, because we're kind of short on time, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. I'm going to pass it back over to Vikas, but thank you very much for taking your time this afternoon to talk with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you to all of Offsight and especially Jason, all you do for us at PDM and Durapods.
Thank you, everyone, for sitting in here on the webinar. I know Nick mentioned that many of you had some questions prepared ahead of time and also have added some of your questions here to the chat. We've collected all of these and, we will address them and reach out. Nick, I also did mention ahead that, for any of these questions that are not answered, we can definitely get directly back to whomever asked them and provide a full answer, even if we're not able to address them here. So as a follow-up, please do feel free to reach out if you have additional questions that we can help. Our goal here is to, as mentioned, help you move in the direction of leveraging prefab and offsite construction and streamlining that transition. So whatever we can do to help with that, whatever any of the team members here can do to help with that, please feel free to leverage us as you see fit. So once again, we really appreciated all of you sitting here for this webinar, and I'll hand back to Nick for the closing.
Thank you, Offsight and team, for today's call. To emphasize again to the group, this meeting was recorded. So if somebody on your team wasn't able to jump because they were so busy with their prefabrication business or getting set up for prefabrication, this is going to be available so you guys can look at it. I just want to reemphasize how this came to be. The SWACCA Innovation Committee, which is chaired by Robert Klug from Martin Brothers, and SWACCA, your National Contractor Association, chaired by Greg Brady with Brady West, is in the pursuit of finding partners and solutions to your needs that are expressed by contractors every day. Signatory, unionized contractors. That's a common denominator of everybody that's a member of SWACCA. And the Innovation Committee, working with Offsight, said we see a need for prefabrication, and that's how this webinar came to you today. So if there's ever a situation where you want more information, you want to know what's available, you want to kick off prefab or better get your prefab going, please feel free to reach out to anybody at SWACCA. Allison and Isabel are on this call today. You feel free to call any of the panelists, contact them directly, and we will be ready for any questions. Again, thank you for everybody's participation. Thank you for being here today, and a sincere appreciation to Offsight for their participation. And the recording should be available in a few days. Thank you, everybody. And with that, we're done. Have a good one.